This is Morning Line.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Morning Line. Nick Beres here on a Monday. How are you? I hope you had a good weekend, and I hope you'll join us in the conversation this morning as we continue with a topic that I think right now is generating an awful lot of discussion, not just here in the state of Tennessee, but nationally. And many of you have called in and weighed in when we've had open phones on this, when we've had conversations just between you and I. But this morning we're going to do it with some guests as we talk about the idea of legalizing marijuana, either across the board as they have in Colorado, or as many other states have done, up to 20 plus when it comes to medical marijuana. Still controversial. There's a bill on board here, as we've already said in the past, in Tennessee, where they're looking at legalizing medical marijuana. Whether or not there's the support for something like that to happen yet in Tennessee, I think really that's kind of a long shot, though it's something that a lot of people are talking about. But I want you to join in the conversation with us as you recognize the two teams representing the NFL and the Super Bowl happen to come from the two states that have legalized marijuana. Can you imagine that? Washington and Colorado. I don't think there's any correlation there, but what a coincidence. Did you know that, Representative Mike Sparks?
No.
Did not know that.
I don't think there's a correlation there.
I don't think it had anything to do with that yet, but that's part of it. Colorado, Washington have. Representative Sparks is a Republican from Smyrna. We've got the phone lines open, but I want to start with you. Your colleague Sherry Jones, who is a Democrat, as we know, has proposed legalizing medical marijuana in the state of Tennessee. Now, she has yet to be able to find a Republican co-sponsor, and from your take, and I know you've got an interesting way of looking at this, but right now as it stands, is that something you would be able to vote for?
I couldn't. Not at this time, and I want to see what's playing out in Washington and also Colorado.
Is it a concern for you also that it still remains illegal under national law or federal law?
I think the decriminalization that aspect needs to be looked at, but what I was telling Representative Jones the other day, I happened to see her in the halls of the plaza the other day, I said, it's not so much that I'm against your bill, but I'm for treatment and addiction and recovery, and looking at some of these areas that oftentimes folks turn a blind eye to, yet it costs the taxpayers. Governor Haslam told me just last year, he asked me, Mike, what's on your mind? What are concerns that you have? I said, my concerns where this country's going. My concerns with the fatherless. My concerns, our jails are full. We've got a drug epidemic on our hands, and what are we doing about it? And he said, well, thank you for what you got to say. He said, our prison budget increased $48 million. That was last year. What's it going to be this year, Nick? What's it going to be next year?
It keeps going up. All right, so let me ask you this then. Can you tell me why? I mean, what right now you're thinking, why is it something you can't support? Is it something that is just political suicide for a Republican in the state? Or is it, what is your objection? What do you worry would happen if we legalized medical marijuana? Medical marijuana, not going as far as Colorado has where it's across the board, but just legalize it.
Well, I think we'll have abuse, just like we have abuse with prescription drug problem, and we have abuse with the meth problem. And, there's also a form out there, Dronabo bill, the Marinol, which is the THC medical form, and it's a difficult name to pronounce.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And very difficult, but there's an alternative out there. Yeah. So if folks need it, there's an alternative they can have access to.
Okay, so listen, we've got that alternatives. You talk about filling up the jails and the prisons with folks. Now, if you decriminalized it, and you say that, there might be abuse if you legalize it.
But we're talking about medical marijuana.
Medical marijuana, right.
Yes.
But come on, people are abusing marijuana right now, man.
Well, they're abusing prescription drugs also.
Yeah, and what do you think's worse? I'm curious. Do you think marijuana is worse than OxyContin? Because I'll tell you what, I'd much rather. I think OxyContin's far worse.
I think most people would agree with you on that. There's no doubt.
So, marijuana. I saw the president the other day said in his mind, marijuana is no worse than liquor.
Oh, a lot of folks would agree with you, and I would tend to agree with you on that.
If you decriminalized it, would that maybe, in your opinion, mean fewer people to incarcerate?
Well, Yes, possibly, and that would help with the fiscal budget, and that's where my concern is. But also, if you shift some of those monies and allocate them towards treatment and recovery, and also just bringing awareness. What I get disappointed with in my own county of Rutherford, our sheriff Robert Arnold, Robert. Robert does a good job with the GD program and the Garden of Hope and some of those that's over there at the 940 jail, and yet you have no elected officials that show up at the graduation ceremony, and that may be like, well, who cares about that? but that's somebody's life. That's the greatest accomplishment that person has had, getting their GED. And you look, it's a never-ending cycle. They've had grandfathers, sons, and grandsons incarcerated at the same time over there, and it's a never-ending cycle. And if we don't get these folks educated, and also leaders in the church,
but wait, what does that have to do with medical marijuana?
No, we're talking about drug addiction.
Okay, but
70%. Well, 70% of our inmates, maybe some estimates are as high as 90,
with drugs
drug and alcohol
or mental issues as well, right? Yeah, absolutely. Most sheriffs will tell you that most of them have drug-related offenses or are suffering from some kind of mental illness.
It is.
And then the question is, then how does marijuana play into that, and what types of drugs? Certainly, meth is a big problem as well.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what? Your colleague's here. We're going to take a break, and we'll have Representative Sherry Jones on as well, who's sponsoring the bill to legalize medical marijuana in Tennessee. We'll have her weighing in along with